Hi, I'm Deb Smith, family nurse practitioner, senior lecturer in the Department of Nursing, and I'm here to talk with you today about some tips for optimizing your function in graduate school, specifically sleep, nutrition, and brain power. It's great to be with you today, and we're going to talk a little bit about hubris, the Greek notion that everything needs to be in balance, equilibrated, for optimal function. First, let's talk about the dance of sleep. Sleep is so important to us in many different ways. Basically, most people need to sleep about 8 hours a night. Those people who have the same sleep habits they did in middle age as they age are healthier emotionally, mentally, and physically. What do you need for a good night's sleep? Well, most of us need about 8 hours, minimally. And the ingredients that can support that are to make sure that your fatigue level is balanced or the same between your physical self, your emotional self, and your mental self. If one part is disproportionate, say you've really worked hard mentally, but you haven't exerted physically, you won't sleep well. So you're looking to equalize your fatigue mentally, emotionally, and physically. You'd like to have a really dark, quiet room. That pineal gland, if it sees any light, tends to wake up the body. So the dark and quiet nature of night is what we're looking for. You'll want to avoid any caffeine, probably afternoon or after 3 o'clock, depending on how sensitive you are to it. Because it's such a stimulant, it may keep you awake at night. You'll also want to avoid alcohol, which is one of the greatest robbers of sleep. And it does it in a fairly secretive way. People who drink tend to fall asleep easily, but what happens is that they have repeated awakenings during the night and they miss that restorative sleep that we're aiming for. We find that there's a lot of repair work that takes place during the night, and generally you'll experience your deepest sleep in the early stages of the night and your lightest sleep, your most REM sleep, just prior to waking up in the morning. If you can't sleep, the most important information I would share with you is get up and do something else. It only leads to frustration, lying in bed, and wishing you could sleep. And try to reserve the bedroom just for sleep and intimate relationships. It really shouldn't be used for much else. Very important when you go to sleep to take a moment and review your day, focusing on the positive pieces, the parts you'd like to relive again, and your goals for tomorrow. We find that the subconscious influences about 90% of our thinking, and the subconscious really can't tell fact from fiction. And so whatever you tell it, it believes, and it strives to make that come true. So when you go to bed at night, it's a good time to review the positive aspects of your day, of yourself, of your interactions, and your goals for tomorrow, again, in very positive terms. The metabolic domino is a theory that was conceived by Itoa, and in it, he suggested that we all sit on our genetic foundation that reflects both our strengths and our vulnerabilities. And the goal here is to sit upright on that foundation. Basically, as children, most of us are upright without thinking much about it. We eat well, we sleep well, we exercise well. But what happens if you stop exercising, say if you're in graduate school because you're just too busy to do it, and in doing that you become more tired, so you tend to eat more. What tends to happen is you tend to start listing, and you become off balance. And then as weight increases, we see other changes such as insulin resistance, changes in the lining of the vessel, diabetes, heart attack, and stroke. So what we see is when we're off balance, we tend to go down fairly easily. That's the most natural movement to make. You can move back up to equilibrium, but that's harder. It's tough. It's possible, but tough. So during graduate school, I think a goal would be to stay in equilibrium, stay upright. Let's think about nutrition. Think about designing your plate cutting it into 4 quarters. 1 quarter housing the lean protein, about the size of a deck of cards. Portion sizes are always a little smaller than we think. The other quarter with a whole grain product, and the rest of the plate, or 50% of the plate, filled with fruits and vegetables. That design should serve you well at any time, but particularly during graduate school. The other thing is, oftentimes you'll think that you're hungry because you're tired. So if that's the case, try taking a little power nap for 15 minutes. Or try going out and exercising for 15 minutes. And often if you can do that, your energy will come back, your thinking will peak again, and you'll be able to function at optimal levels. If you're still hungry though, go ahead and eat at that time. Consider water the source of life. And remember that our bodies are 70% water. Even just breathing a day takes you down by a pint of water. So very important that you drink enough water during the day. And finally, again, make every calorie count. If you're looking at a healthy snack, try to pick one that will bring up blood sugar but also sustain you. So usually combining a protein with a carbohydrate works nicely there. I've given you my own recipe for granola that's great because it doesn't need refrigeration. You can take it anywhere with you, and I hope you enjoy it. Our expectation of ourselves is that we can multitask, and some of us probably do it better than others, but you'd be surprised to know that the brain is hardwired not to multitask. What's the cost of multitasking? Well, every time you're interrupted, it takes 0.3 seconds to move your attention to something else. And you pay again when you go back to your original thought because it takes another 0.3 seconds to get there. There's a famous Boeing experiment in which the wing engineers are making an unprecedented number of errors. And so the molecular biologists who studied the brain from the University of Washington went to Boeing and looked at their work conditions. And basically he found that the minimum number of windows the engineers had open on their computer was 17. So what he instituted was a 3-hour time during the day during which the engineer received no emails, no telephone calls, no visitors, no interruptions. And during that time they worked only on the wings. And what they found was that the engineers felt far less stressed, much more satisfied with their work, and the error rate decreased by 85%. One of the secrets of graduate school that we'd all like to learn is how to optimize brain function. And it's a simple secret, but it really does work. And I'll tell you about it by telling you about another experiment. In this experiment involving 750 people of all ages, they were tested prior to the experimental design beginning, and they checked their executive function, the ability to sequence and organize, their memory, their math and spatial ability to see relationships, and their creative thinking. And then they asked those people to exercise, and they enforced it, for 35 minutes a day, 3 days a week. And what they found at the end of 6 months, when they retested them in the same parameters, was that the minimum improvement, and remember this is across the age span, the minimum improvement was 20%. The maximum was 70%. And in most areas of brain parameters, the improvement was 50%. So if you get stuck on a thought or a theory or being able to see patterns or relationships, go out and exercise for a bit. And I suspect and hope that it'll all be clear in your mind. Probably the best way to optimize brain function is to exercise, and it's the first thing we give up when we think we're too busy. Thanks for letting me join you today. It's been a privilege for me. I wish you well in your journey through graduate school and hope these tips will help you maximize your performance both there and in your future career.